One of the saddest trends that I see personally among young people today is how much they compare themselves with others. And studies have shown that social media is a large part of the problem. Right? We see others on social media, their lives seem so much cooler, better than ours, and so then we create an unhealthy comparison. The number of likes we can generate on a social media post becomes a reflection of our own personal self-worth. And as Christians, we're not immune to this kind of unhealthy comparison, right? It can even creep into our vocations, whether we're religious or lay people. We can look at those who live the same vocation that we do and see that they have gifts we don't. They have a dynamic personality. They're attractive, they're smart. They're bringing people to the faith. Wherever they go, thousands follow and tune in to hear them talk. We think they're remarkable. And we might be tempted to think, well, gosh, what do I do compared to them? What did God ever see in me? God does not choose people to go out and bear the fruit of the gospel based on the ability to be remarkable in the eyes of the world. Rather, God looks into the depths of your heart, into the core of who you are, and calls you as you are. What do I mean? We hear this sometimes in vocations ministry, right? Our specific call to serve God, our vocation, is written in who we are. It's simply how God made us. And I can say this is true personally for me. For me, religious life is a call to love. It's a call to love generously, love deeply, through ministry, through a life of contemplation, time spent with God, through a life lived with other brothers with the same calling. And so the question that sometimes I get asked by people, oh, what's it like being a Dominican, is such a strange question for me to answer because it's just who I am. For whatever reason, and whenever He did, God made known to me things about myself that led me to believe that I might be called to religious life. I might be called to priesthood. In prayer, He showed me what He already knew about me and invited me to look with Him and see myself as He saw me. And I don't doubt that many of you here have similar sentiments about your own vocation. So this is very reminiscent of what we see in the call of David that we just heard about in the first book of Samuel. Jesse presents his sons, and one after the other, the Lord tells Samuel, this isn't it. All right, he has a lofty stature. He looks strong. He might look the part. This is not the one. And when Jesse presents David, he's the one Samuel anoints. What did the Lord see in David's heart? Perhaps fidelity to his vocation as king, a great love for his sheep. David, after all, was in the flocks, tending the sheep. That would probably translate to a great love and care for the people entrusted to him. The faith and trust in God needed to lead Israel into the ways of the Lord. Point being, God knew the depths of David's heart. God knew what kind of characteristics the king of Israel would need. And not only did David have them, they were a part of who he was. And so God chose him. And so what about us? Have you ever asked yourself, in a truthful, honest way, what does God see in my heart? It doesn't have to be a question that we ask ourselves out of frustration when we compare ourselves to others. What did God ever see in me? Let it be an honest, curious question you ask yourself in prayer. Lord God, you always see the depths of my heart. Show me what you see. Because whether you're called to religious life or the life of a holy layperson, it's important to remember that God chose you, specifically you, to make him known to the ends of the world. With all your pain, with your human brokenness, the parts of you that are wounded by sin, the parts that keep you away from God and are most in need of his mercy and his healing. You, with your goodness, your desire to please God, all the virtues you excel in, all the parts that most readily show the world that God has come and visited his people. God sees all of that, and he has chosen you as you are. We don't need to be remarkable in the eyes of the world. We simply need to remember the goodness God has shown us in choosing us for the mission of the gospel. If we're comfortable with that, and what that means for us and for our lives, perhaps we may find at the end of our lives that our lives were remarkable in the eyes of God.